book's made me cry as a grown man. What are my credentials? I am a man, and I am grown. Thank you. So let's talk about some books that made me cry, and put a link to the books in the description down below if you want to pick them up. And let's get right into it. The first book, and this is one I've been trying to find out the name to for ages, and I finally figured it out. It is Our Souls at Night by Kent Haruf. I'll be honest, I read this book in 2017. I just looked at my Storygraph to try and find this book. I don't fully remember the details. I thought this book was set in England. It's apparently set in Colorado, so forgive me if I don't remember all the details of a book I read 8 years ago, but I remember the ending, and the ending made me bawl. It made me cry. It was... This book taught me empathy for old people, and not the case that I didn't have it in the first place. I'm pretty sure I did. I don't think I was that sociopathic. I'm pretty sure I had it, but reading this I was like, damn man, old people can live fulfilling lives, and old people should have lives where like they feel loved and get to do whatever they want. They don't need to fit into this, you know, especially in certain cultures like my own, you have this like idea of an old person, and the old person just sits at home, doesn't really have so much fun, just, you know, is there, you know, because it's expected of them, you know, they're respectable, they shouldn't be out having fun and stuff. And then this book, it's two elderly people who fall in love and share experiences and live life all over again towards the end of life, and I think that's really beautiful. And I think, oh, it made me think, and you know, like even my parents or myself, you know, when they get older, they're already older. I'm old. God. Okay, let's not think about that. Like thinking and being like, what kind of life do I want to be living at that point? What kind of life do I want my parents to be living at that point in time? I don't want myself or them to be, you know, like in their house, not wanting to go out, you know, feeling like they can't do anything because they're older, but like go and live their lives to their fullest, because in the society we live in, for 60, 70 years, you study and work and that's it. And then you have, I don't know what life expectancy is anymore, but I know it's gone down for men at the very least. You have like 10 to 15 years max to live your life. And then you're already plagued with health conditions, and you're tired and you're worn down, and it's like, oh, just trying to... Obviously, the solution to that is a complete radical change in the way in which we live our lives and how society is organized. But if we're just looking at it from an individualistic lens, like we are considering this book talks all about those problems, how, you know, they are not ostracized, but they are given a role, and how these people actually, through their love for one another, don't want to stick to that. They just want to embrace and have love and be, oh, it was my heart, man. I remember crying over this. I think I read this shortly after I read Grief is a Thing with Feathers as well, so I was already in like a I'm gonna cry right now mood, but it was very wholesome. I believe they made a movie. I'll put the poster here, but I've not seen that movie, clearly. But just, you know, if you're the feeling to, you know, read a book about old people being in love, you should read this. Next up is a very obvious book, The Book Thief. Oh my god. I read this book recently. I think, wow, actually I might have read this like a year ago. It was around this time last year. Time flies, guys. Time flies. Time flies! It goes so fast. Like Air Force One. I don't know why that made me... Anyway. The Book Thief. I know it's an old book, and I know what, I read it 20-something years after publication, maybe a little bit less than that. But god, man, that book. If you like me, you haven't read the Book Thief, well actually, if like me last year and you haven't read The Book Thief, go and read it. It's incredible. I think it was the first book in my Books for Young Men series, where I tried to find books that to help young men, you know, understand and cope and fight against like the rise of the far right through literature. So I'll link that book somewhere around me and also down below. But this book, it goes into great detail of like the horrors of living in 1940s Germany, the actions of the 1940s Germans, you know, the suppression of groups in the 40s, including Jewish people and communists, the fear people constantly lived with. It doesn't sugarcoat like the evilness of the Nazis, even the general German public and how they acted towards, you know, even one another because of fascism, and kind of the things we're seeing right now, like in the US, where there are, you know, the far right in the US are encouraging each other to go off and, you know, attack their non-white neighbors, to call the federal agents on their non-white neighbors, to encourage the kidnapping of their non-white neighbors. And you will see great parallels between then and now in this book. Also, just the way it's written is really great. I love the way it jumps perspectives. I love the way kind of it's almost written cyclically, kind of the ending and the beginning kind of meet at some point. So that as well is a really like, I love when books play around a little bit with like the time and structure of the writing. It's a very difficult thing to do, to make it make sense like it does in this book. But yeah, I remember like the last couple of chapters, just the tears were just streaming down my face when I finished it. So The Book Thief, obviously, you know, a very famous book, but one you should read. Finally, we are going to be talking about Witness in Palestine. That's right, I tricked you. I made you now go off and read a non-fiction book. Witness in Palestine is a book I've talked about many times, but even thinking about it gets me upset and like viscerally angry. Witness in Palestine is Anna Baltzer, who was someone who went and volunteered in the West Bank during and after the Second Intifada, and it is her chronicling, or at least recording her time there, the people she met, her experiences, the stories of people there, her feelings, and you can from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, Baltzer changes completely because of her experience in Palestine. She goes there, someone very gung-ho, being like, why can't everyone just live in peace? Why can't everyone just come together and be friends? And by the end, she's like, oh my God, the treatment of the Palestinians is horrendous, and I understand the constant resistance they fight for all their lives. This book was written from, I think, about 2001 to 2005-ish, so about 20 plus years ago. And still now, we have to tell people that the Palestinians are resisting, because if they don't, they will be eliminated, basically. I'll very quickly talk about some of the stories, and excuse me, I do get like upset talking about them because they're like burnt into my mind. I read this book a year ago and all the stories are burnt into my mind. One of them was, she was with a group of Palestinian farmers who were grazing. So she went as like this like charities or coalitions who go there and, you know, try and keep the peace for people. And they were there, and they realized, one of the shepherds, farmers, came and was like, there's this stuff on the floor that my sheep are eating and now my sheep are sick. And they went there and they investigated and they were like, it's poison. There's poisonous petals, like rat poison and poison for livestock. And then they saw the settlers who were there enjoying watching them panicking. And then there were the Israeli soldiers who were there. And they went to the Israeli soldiers like, why didn't you stop them? What are you doing? And the Israeli soldiers were like, go away, don't talk to me, or else I will attack you. And then the settlers and the Israeli soldiers beset on a couple of people there. And, you know, this is just someone trying to graze sheep to ensure a livelihood for his family, and the settlers and the Israeli occupation force soldier was just like, whatever, they can do what they want. One that constantly upsets me and makes me angry just thinking about it, and I every time I talk about this book I tell the story. There was a family who their child was extremely sick. They were trying to get to the hospital, but Israel had put up an illegal checkpoint there. Checkpoints, Israel should not be allowed to do that. Illegal checkpoint, The family were trying to get through to get to the hospital to take their dying child, their child that was extremely sick. The soldiers were like, you can wait. And they were just standing there, fucking about. They were like, please let us go. They called the ambulance to come from the hospital on the other side of the checkpoint. The ambulance arrives. The Israeli soldiers say, no, you can't cross through here. The ambulance can't come through here. You can't go through there. We don't care. You have to wait. Then they went and got their ID cards off of them. Went and stood there waiting. The child is dying in the back as we speak. The ambulance is on the other side, but the soldiers won't let them go through. And then eventually one of the soldiers saunters over, and then as they're giving back the ID cards, sees the dying child in the back, and we're like, oh, that child doesn't look very well. Okay, you can now go through. This was 4 or 5 hours. They go through, get in the ambulance rushes them to the hospital, and they get to the hospital and the doctors are like, I'm sorry, I can't do anything for your child. If you'd gotten here a few hours ago, maybe we probably would have saved your child. That's what Israel does, this constant like dehumanization. Balza talks about how even she is dehumanized. She watches the Palestinians be dehumanized by the Israeli occupation forces, and then she describes her own dehumanization by them. This was 20 years ago. This has continued to happen. It has gotten worse. It has gotten more ingrained. That's the life. I cry and I get angry when I read this book, because this is the lived life of the Palestinian people, and it is still happening. And we have our politicians saying Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East, whilst they do this to Palestinians every single moment of their lives. This... Go and, if you can find this, read it. I think it'll be pretty expensive I'll link it. I think I've got at least one link to it, which I can link to it down below. It might be a bit expensive. You can probably find it as a PDF online. Okay, let's move on. So those are some books that have made me, a grown man, cry. Let me know in the comments down below any books that have made you cry, whether they be fiction or non-fiction. I would love to know. Before I end this video, I want to say a special thank you to my members. Members get special access to extra content. They get to be part of a book club. There was a tier to be a part of a movie club. We could even watch Our Souls at Night, to be honest. The members can decide that. They get bonus perks as well. So from as little as £1 a month, you can become a member. If you can do that by hitting join down below or on the channel, by the way. But if you can't, thank you for getting to this point in the video. I really appreciate it. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend or family member. And hey, I hope you read a great book today. And if you can, please go and get Witness in Palestine, or share Witness in Palestine, even if as a PDF.